Restoring Men and History. May 13th, 1940, Churchill gave the blood, toil, tears, sweat speech. But before we look at it, let's set up the circumstances. And also, why do we do these speeches? Because they're still applicable today in terms of courage and virtue. So the language of that day is phenomenal. Churchill is just amazing with words. But also, it holds true today. Tyranny versus freedom, a battle since the beginning of the ages, still goes on today. You can choose freedom or tyranny. Churchill chose freedom here, and you can see it in his writings and speeches. He never wanted to make a deal or appease Hitler and Germany. On May 10th, 1940, German armies invaded Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. Also on May 10th, 1940, he became the Prime Minister of England. When he took office, the German army was rapidly advancing. Now, what was his perspective and the perspective of others? Many still wanted to make a deal. He did not. He saw it as an opportunity to save the British people and the British Empire, and he thrived on it. By the way, his whole life he had prepared for this in various positions of government. And he had the right virtues and temperament. He had the valor, perseverance to lead England during this time. What if he had not been there? What caused this moment to happen? They had been appeasing Hitler and it had not worked. Chamberlain believed in appeasement. Churchill did not. So we'll read his speech, which happened May 13th, right after he became Prime Minister. And I think it's good to read these speeches, as I said, because it still holds true today, a lot of the words in here, on how you fight for freedom versus tyranny. And that is the battle, right? Freedom versus tyranny, today and in other ages, all through history. So here's what he said, Churchill. On Friday evening last, I received His Majesty's commission to form a new administration. It is evident and will of Parliament and the nation that this should be conceived on the broadest possible basis, and that it should include all parties, both those who supported the late government and also the parties of the opposition. I have completed the most important part of this task. A war cabinet has been formed of 5 members representing the opposition liberals, the unity of the nation. 3 party leaders have agreed to serve, either in the war cabinet or in high executive office. The 3 fighting services have been filled. It was necessary that this should be done in one single day on account of the extreme urgency and rigor of the events. A number of key positions, a number of other positions, key positions, were filled yesterday, and I am submitting a further list to His Majesty tonight. I hope to complete the appointment of the principal ministers during tomorrow. The appointment of the other ministers usually takes a little longer, but I trust that when Parliament meets again, this part of my task will be completed, and that the administration will be complete in all respects. I considered it in the public interest to suggest that the House should be summoned to meet today. Mr. Speaker agreed and took the necessary steps in accordance with the powers conferred upon him by the resolution of the House. At the end of the proceedings today, the adjournment of the House will be proposed until Tuesday, 21st of May, with, of course, provision for earlier meeting if need be. Business to be considered during that week will be notified to members at the earliest opportunity. I will now invite the House by motion, which stands in my name, to record its approval of the steps taken and declare its confidence in the new government. To form an administration of this scale and complexity is a serious undertaking in itself, but it must be remembered that we are in the preliminary stage of one of the greatest battles in history, that we are in action at many other points in Norway and Holland, and that we have to be prepared in the Mediterranean, that the air battle is continuous, and that many preparations, such as have been indicated by my honorable friend below the gangway, have been made here at home In this crisis, I hope I may be pardoned if I do not address the House at any length today. I hope that any of my friends and colleagues or former colleagues who are affected by the political reconstruction will make allowance, all allowance, for any lack of ceremony with which it has been necessary to act. I would say to the House, as I said to those who have joined this government, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. We have before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind. We have before us many, many long months of struggle and of suffering. You ask, what is our policy? I can say it is to wage war by sea, land, and air, with all our might and with all the strength that God can give us, to wage war against a monstrous tyranny never surpassed in the dark, lamentable catalog of human crime. That is our policy. You ask, what is our aim? It is victory. Victory at all cost, victory in spite of all terror, victory however long and hard the road may be, for without victory, there is no survival. Let that be realized. No survival for the British Empire, no survival for all the British Empire has stood for, no survival for the urge and impulse of the ages that mankind will move towards its goal. But I take up my task with buoyancy and hope. I feel sure that our cause will not be suffered to fail among men. At this time, I feel entitled to claim the aid of all. And I say, come then, let us go forward together with our united strength. Now that is a fantastic speech, right? Isn't it wonderful? I mean, look at the language there, the power. Look at the determination and the virtue that he shows, the courage. He inspires, he has courage. What's his goal? What's his purpose? We're always talking about men's purposes. You're men, you have a purpose. He had a purpose. What's he say his purpose is? He says it's victory. Victory at all cost. And by the way, victory in spite of all terror, right? You have to go forward and push through terror to oppose evil. He also says victory, however long and hard. So he's preparing the British, right? He's preparing them for a long, hard road. And he's also saying they must have a victory, not an appeasement, not a deal. For he says what? Without victory, there is no survival. And again, many want to make a deal still at this point. He's not also saying, hold on. He's saying we will have victory. He wanted freedom. He wanted the British Empire to go on. He wanted Western civilization to go on. He wanted freedom, not tyranny. And he was willing to fight to the end for victory. So, gentlemen, do you pursue your purpose like Churchill pursued his purpose here? Notice Churchill has again, what? He references God in the speech. He has a higher purpose than himself. Again, I had said this earlier in a different video. He made more money from his writing than his government. He was a statesman. He wasn't doing any of this for money. He loved the British Empire. So again, do you pursue your purpose like that? Your goals? Do you pursue your purpose with blood, toil, tears, and sweat? Because that's what it takes, gentlemen. Blood, toil, tears, and sweat to reach a goal, to reach your purpose. Do you stand for freedom with toil, tears, and sweat? Because again, freedom can slip away rapidly or slowly, little by little. So this speech was inspiring. One man had an impact and made a difference. Think of this one man, Churchill, had not been there. One person can change history. What would have happened if he had not been there at that moment in time? In that speech, the man Churchill is revealed. His fight, his courage, his virtue. So know that you can have an impact. You can have an impact every day with your friends. You encourage them. You can have an impact on freedom. Do you stand for freedom? Do you stand for the truth? That takes courage. You stand for the Constitution, limited government, federalism, for the Bill of Rights, which protects your freedom from tyranny. You can have an impact on the Republic. Are you using your talents? So when you go out there today, know that you can have an impact and make a difference in what you do and what you say. And when you stand for the truth and stand up for freedom. And also when you move toward your purpose as a man, whatever that may be. You might have multiple purposes. Pursuit and goal for yourself and a pursuit and goal for the Republic of freedom. So we'll end with this, I guess. One man stood in the gap and he made a difference. So can you. Thank you.